Hello, this is Tim Kamso with ActionCOACH Business Coaching with my Survive and Thrive Business Spotlight series. The purpose is to interview local business owners to get the word out about them through my social channels and email database. This is a free service I'm providing to support local businesses because if we save every business, we save the economy. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Garrett with Ambition in Motion. Welcome, Garrett. It's great to have you join the program today.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with just tell me a little bit about yourself. And if you had 60 seconds to describe your business, what would your commercial be for your business?
Yeah, my name's Garrett Mintz, and I help teams and leaders communicate better through horizontal mentorship.
Fantastic. Wow, that was good. You've been practicing.
I recently read, Building a Story Brand. I just realized the simplicity of it is the most critical part.
Yeah. Well, let's do it again then for fun. I never have people nail it on the first time. So tell me that again.
I help teams and leaders communicate better through horizontal mentorship.
Wonderful. And how do you do that, Garrett?
So what I do is I've studied the science behind why some people get along together for mentorship better than others. And I started in higher ed. Built our business to a little over 300 campuses, connecting students and alumni as well as alumni to alumni for mentoring relationships. And one of the big things we observed was that traditional vertical mentoring relationships don't work. So this idea of a mentor to a mentee strictly based on years of experience, area of expertise, or status alone, that only 18% of those relationships lasted for 6 months and were considered productive and quality. So what I did was I partnered with some industrial organizational psychologists. So Jake's over at Penn State, Kyle's over at Kansas State. And we ended up researching the 18%. Why were they successful? And we learned that there were some mentors that were just naturally great mentors. They asked great questions. They were great listeners. We threw them out. They would have been a great mentor to anybody. But for the rest, there was almost like this personality connection there, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So we tried a bunch of different personality assessments. Unfortunately, none of them really work. Like if you're a high D personality in DIS, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get along well with another high D personality. If you're high A in culture or predictive index, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be getting along with another high A personality. But what we learned was that when their work orientation was aligned, and work orientation is how you view your work. So some people view their work as a job, some people view their work as a career, some people view their work as a calling. And it's a spectrum, meaning it could change throughout your life. So at some point you could be job oriented, and then at another point you could be career oriented, and then at another point you could be calling oriented. It's not right or wrong. There's no correlation between being more or less engaged at work compared to your work orientation. But when two people's work orientations are aligned, the likelihood that relationship lasts for 6 months and is productive and quality goes from 18% to 72%.
Wow.
So big increase. And when we discovered that, we said, whoa, we could go to companies. We could connect teams together and build deeper, more intentional, more vulnerable bonds so that they could be more productive at work, more engaged at work, and just be more connected about the obstacles that people are facing, especially in this remote world that we're in. This is so critical. And then that's essentially expanded into executive mentorship, where we work with CEOs and HR executives and marketing executives and finance executives, and we pair them together for one-on-one mentorship so they can learn from each other, have someone outside of their company to bounce ideas off of and just to be vulnerable with and have a mentor.
Fantastic. So tell me, how long have you been in business?
Started the company in 2013. So the higher ed portion, started it as a student at Indiana University. That took a long time to grow. We bootstrapped pretty much from the ground up, so never really had a funder. We just went slow and steady. We thought we'd be like Facebook, so we thought we'd be like, oh, give it away for free. We'll figure out the money thing later. And we were able to get on the 300 campuses and facilitate thousands of mentorship. But eventually the business model, we had to figure that component out. That took us a little while. But we learned a ton from giving it away for free, learning it, kind of applying Chris Anderson's book, Free. We learned a lot from that. We learned a lot from just being able to give something away for free so then we can actually create the value of what we've got today.
Wonderful. So Free wasn't a long-term sustainable business?
It was not a long-term sustainable business, but the insights were invaluable. I mean, we know so much about mentoring relationships, and there's very little data on mentoring relationships. So we applied for grants through the Society for Industrial Organizational Psychologists. We're looking at some peer-reviewed articles that we can publish in academic journals. Like, we're coming out with some brand new research that's not really been touched on before, and we're really excited about that. And it's really because we gave it away for free at first, because we, no one would have given us a chance had we not been so easily accessible early on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you did your homework to be able to prove a business case, and now you're able to leverage that to make money. Fantastic. So tell me, who do you serve? Really, who is your best customer? We call it your target audience.
Yeah, so my target audience isn't necessarily a size of company. It's more a mentality of leadership. What I recognize is that leadership is going to drive the programs that our company does. And at the end of the day, I'm looking for leaders that are constantly open to being vulnerable and are constantly curious. I mean, that's it. Leaders that are open to learning new things, that don't come in with this mentality that I've done it before, I've been doing it forever, I know exactly what I want, and I'm not open to learning new things. That's not necessarily who our target client is, because mentorship represents a very new mantra to the way we engage with our work. And this could be for blue collar companies. This could be for white collar companies. This could be for massive companies. This could be for 11-person companies. It really doesn't necessarily need to be a size of company or a certain industry where this is extremely, I mean, we've seen this work for, we've got a pool manufacturer down in Florida that uses our company. They've got 600 employees, and the people that are just in the hot manufacturing room putting together pools, I don't really know how it all works, but they're engaging in our mentor program and they're loving it. And it's super cool to see that. And then we work with accounting firms or software development firms or engineering firms. And it really, they range in very different sizes. They're very different in terms of their leadership structure. It's really cool. It's fascinating. Actually, one new insight that we've got just from like our most recent, I guess, like COVID data that we've gotten in, one thing we've learned is that engagement plays a really huge role in mentoring relationships. So one of the big things we're measuring is, are we able to increase engagement over time? And we have, and that's a really cool thing. But what we've learned is that when you pair two disengaged employees together for mentoring relationships and their work orientations align, doesn't matter. Engagement is going to still decrease. So engagement's critical. But when you pair a highly engaged employee with a disengaged employee and their work orientation is aligned, engagement is going to increase for both people. Wow. So your highly engaged employees are your cultural rocks. Now, what's really fascinating is the majority of disengaged employees that were participating in mentor programs were senior leaders. It blew my mind. For some people, they're not surprised. For me, it was insane. They participated because they thought, oh, I'm a senior leader. I should be participating in a mentor program. But what they don't realize is that when we pair them with this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young employee who's super engaged at work, she's killing it, she's so excited, and she's paired with a senior leader, he may think he's the mentor in this relationship, but I know that she's driving the engagement numbers, and in 6 months, they're both going to be more engaged at work, and it's because she's a highly engaged employee. So the point is, we can really find where those ideal matches are and drive engagement and productivity for the people in the company.
Wow, that's incredible. What I really liked about your definition of your target is you have very crystal clear clarity. So what you didn't say is we want to be all things to all people, which is the challenge that a lot of business owners face, is they believe that, you know, they just should be positioning to everyone. So you've clearly done some work in the background to articulate and know who your ideal target is.
Well, it's funny you say that. I just finished the chapter in Seth Godin's book, This is Marketing, and he talks about Zig Ziglar. And the cool story about Zig Ziglar was he was a pot and pan salesman going door to door. But what was different between him and every other door-to-door salesman is as opposed to only capturing the early adopters when he'd come to a town and just like run through the town to sell them whatever stuff they were selling, he booked a night in the hotel, or not a night, he booked months in the hotel. He would stay in a town for weeks to months to build relationships with the majority of the town. And he determined that the ROI from staying in that niche and really building those relationships was way more lucrative than just coming in and being a fly-by-night salesperson.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Garrett, tell me, what's been the greatest impact that COVID's had on your business?
Yeah, you know, honestly, the biggest challenge, and this is, Tim, you can relate to this, I would imagine as well, is the status quo. That's ultimately the biggest thing that we're facing when we're challenging a new way of thinking about your work, is challenging the status quo. But when things like COVID are hitting, the status quo is challenged. I mean, when everything's breaking around you, you might as well just keep breaking more plates, because at the end of the day, you're just trying to survive this and make this work and come out stronger on the other side. And that's where we can come in and help. But yeah, it's just a different way of thinking about things. I know one thing that we're starting to look at is just a lot of executive group meetings. What we've observed is that 20-person Zoom meetings kind of suck. It's a zoo. It's a madhouse. It's very difficult to be engaged on a 20-person Zoom call. And so when you look at things like whether that be BNI or other executive groups, it can be difficult to engage on a virtual level when you've got that many people. And so what we found is this executive mentor program we're building, and that we've already built and we've already started seeing some really great results with. When we compare people one-on-one, we can achieve really great business results, achieve vulnerability, and ultimately help people become very engaged on a virtual basis because it's just you and the other person.
So what's been one or two actions that you've taken during COVID to make a difference, and how's that worked for you?
Yeah, so we started the executive mentor program because of COVID. I mean, the initial idea was we just saw that a lot of companies pulled their employee engagement funding because we were in this really scary unknown time. It was it was logical. It made sense. And so we thought, okay, who's facing the majority of the stress? It's leaders, it's CEOs, it's chief operating officers, it's HR executives, it's marketing executives. All these people are facing all this stress. What if we could do one-on-one executive mentoring relationships where people could learn from each other, almost like a therapist going to a therapist for therapy? And that really was a hit. It seemed to be really effective and really attractive to a lot of leaders because it allowed them to learn. And for us, it got our foot in the door. It got our foot in the door for them to experience our service, our product, and be able to see like, wow, this is really impactful. We could do this with our team internally. And that's been really a cool thing that we've seen. Yeah, it just forced us to pivot. The other thing we started observing was associations. So we started partnering with a lot of associations that previously had a bunch of annual conferences. That's been wiped out. And so they're implementing these mentor programs for their executive members. So for example, we're partnered with the Society for Marketing Professional Services, and we're creating a marketing executive mentor program for their marketing executives across the world to pair them together for one-on-one mentorship. And it's really cool because it allows these marketing leaders from across the country that, you know, maybe they would have interacted at an annual conference, maybe they wouldn't have, but it allows them to build a deep one-on-one vulnerable relationship with somebody that they may not have done before, that they may not have built a relationship with before.
Sure. You mentioned it forced us to pivot, which is a great insight, because there's a number of folks who have, you know, COVID happened and said, hey, there's nothing that we can do, and we're kind of stuck and we just have to ride this out. And then there's, you know, groups like you who said, hey, you know, we don't have a choice. We got to figure out how to pivot and get through this. I've had a number of, I've been offering free pivot coaching sessions, right, to help business owners think through how do they navigate and change course and figure out a way to survive through all this craziness. So congratulations that you guys were able to figure something out and get it done.
I love that. I appreciate that. I'm going to give a shout out to a couple business owners that I know that are in stereotypically really hurt industries, but were able to pivot. First one is Jeff Wasledge and Adam, I can't think of Adam's last name right now, from Cardinal Spirits. They made hand sanitizer. And that was so cool. They donated almost like half of the hand sanitizer they made, and they were able to really generate a lot of revenue and pivot really strong during this really difficult time period at Cardinal Spirits. And so Jeff and Adam did great with that. The other one I want to give a shout out to is Ed Schwartzman from Buffalo's, which restaurants, obviously, they're very hit hard. And he is such a testament to the notion that givers gain. So as opposed to just like, you know, trying to ramp down all of our expenses, what he and his wife did was when they found out all these schools were like, you know, stopping lunches and they were going back, they provided lunches for the kids who couldn't afford lunch.
Wow.
They just donated chicken wings to and their food to all these kids who couldn't afford lunch. And they didn't do it as a publicity stunt. They didn't do this to try to get any attention. They just said, this is the right thing to do. Givers gain, and we're just giving, and we'll, you know, see what happens. What ended up happening was just all these community members in the Bloomington community just started writing them checks to help them pay for this food. And then the city of Bloomington ended up giving them an award, and their business is doing well. Like, they've been able to weather this storm, and they're getting so many takeout orders because the community wants to support a company that supports their people and their kids. And I think it's such a powerful story compared to, you know, if you're thinking to yourself, like, as a business, things are getting hurt, like, let's shutter and not like let's close ourselves off. They leaned in and said, we're going to give our food away, and we're going to, you know, help out who we can. And it really worked out for them. And I think that's a really cool story. So I want to give both those companies a shout out.
Yeah, those are both cool stories. In both of those, you know, we would call those marketing activities, right? Even though it's not their traditional sense, right? They're still investing time and money to make a difference, which is fantastic. But also, right, to your point, they're leaning into the challenge and promoting their business, marketing their business in unique and meaningful ways that ended up, having a positive impact on their bottom line and probably on their company moving forward. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's a great couple examples.
Yeah, well, I just spoke with Ed last night, and I was like, man, that is so cool. So it's very fresh in my mind.
Well, hey, here's an interesting question. It's been said that smart people learn from their mistakes and wise people learn from the mistakes of others. So what mistakes have you made along the way, and how can other entrepreneurs learn from your experience?
Tons. Are we talking about mistakes from just today alone, or are we talking about
wherever you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I make mistakes all the time. I mean, here, I'll tell you a background story on me. From age 15 to age 19, I was a drug dealer. And at the end of my freshman year at Indiana University, I got arrested in an undercover operation by the Indiana University Police Department and received 5 felony distribution charges. So my life just got hit like a brick wall. And shortly thereafter, I got an opportunity to go to St. George, Utah, enroll in a program called At the Crossroads, which was for young men and women who were at the crossroads in their life. And that's where I got exposed to mentors. So that was a huge mistake that I had made, but it opened the door for me to have my first mentors. I mean, shoot, a month and a half after moving to Utah, I flew back to Indiana to let my family know my life's getting on track. On that flight, I'm sitting next to a guy. Turns out he's the director of ground equipment for SkyWest Airlines, and he offers me an internship doing financial analysis on the spot. And he just took a keen interest in me. I was super lucky. I mean, it was insane. And it just, it's I don't know. I've gotten very lucky. I've been very blessed with just a lot of mistakes I've made. Other business mistakes I've made. Sure, I guess giving the program away for free at the outset wasn't necessarily the smartest move, but it gave me the wisdom and the insight and the knowledge and the data and the research to come in with a very compelling mentor program when there's not much data and research on mentor programs. Like most mentor programs are like, hey, you're a senior, you're a junior, put you together, figure it out. And we're like, well, no, the data doesn't indicate that that's going to work. Like we want to utilize the data we've got to match the right people together and create the best outcomes for the people participating. And so that was, a mistake, but I think they all kind of turn into a lot of really cool opportunities. And yeah, I'm thinking of, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of mistakes. There's just a lot of things that you can learn. And gosh, I don't know. I'm grateful for the mistakes I make because they help make me stronger for where I'm at today.
Yeah, I love how you embrace them and connect the dots, and that they've made you who you are today and help you be a better business owner. So thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, I got one more.
Yeah,
I think it's a powerful mistake that I think for any business owner, listening to this, if you take anything away, take this away. I wasn't vulnerable with my team. When I first got started, I wasn't fully vulnerable with my team. I had this mentality of myself that I needed to be the CEO, that I needed to be this answerer of all questions, that I needed to be this go-to rock, and that I was impenetrable. And that was a mistake. And that was a huge mistake. But I started being vulnerable with my team. And every one-on-one meeting I have with everybody on my team, we do a one-on-one vulnerability component of every single meeting. It takes about 5 minutes, but it is the most powerful thing that I do in every single one of my meetings because it allows me to get to know my people on a more vulnerable level, and they get to know me on a more vulnerable level. And the communication is completely in sync. It has made us so much more productive. It has made us more just connected. And so not being vulnerable was my mistake. Being vulnerable has completely changed my business and my team. And just like, if you want people that are going to be your cultural advocates and your rocks, and people that are going to rally with you, even when maybe you can't pay them as much as you would love to pay them. And maybe if they have to do some stressful work and work hard hours, be vulnerable with them and they will fight for you.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So, hey, second last question here. I've got your contact information to include in the post when I put this out on social media. Anything else that you'd like me to include in that? Anything to offer to the listeners to learn more about you and your business?
Yeah, I mean, connect with me on LinkedIn, one. But two, if you want to learn your work orientation, you can learn it on our website. So if you go to ambitioninmotion.com/work orientation, just click the button that says Learn Your WO. And it's about a 2-minute assessment. It'll immediately show you the results. So you can learn what your work orientation is right now. But like I said, it's fluid, so it could change. In 3 months, it could totally change. I know for one of the companies we worked with that, unfortunately, they were hurt by COVID pretty significantly. 75% of their employees had an altered work orientation in 6 months. So the point is, it's changed. It's fluid. It's not right or wrong, but it's just fascinating. And so if you want to learn your work orientation right now, go to our website, take the assessment. It'll show you your responses right away. It's a cool thing that we've just recently added on our site.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to include that in the post so that people can click through to that. All right. Last question here. Tell me what's been most inspiring to you in today's environment.
What's been most inspiring to me in today's environment, just resilience of just entrepreneurs. I mean, I gave a shout out to Ed and to other entrepreneurs, the guys from Cardinal Spirits, Jeff and Adam. I love learning stories of resilience. I think that's just what gets me going. I don't know. It's just that vulnerability to say, hey, we don't know if we have an answer to the solution. We're not going to be blind, like as if nothing's going on here, but we are going to say, we don't really know. We're going to give this a try and we're going to give it a shot. And I think as an entrepreneur, learning about other people's failures makes me feel like not so much of a failure. Which is, it's a relieving feeling, which I know kind of sounds sad, but it's true. Like when I'm realizing like, oh, wow, like I thought you were way ahead of me and you're doing the exact same mistakes that I'm doing. Like, I don't feel so bad. It makes me feel like a human, like a normal entrepreneur. And I think that's a cool and good feeling. That's kind of what we get from a lot of our executive mentoring relationships, is that like, there's not a right or wrong way to do things, and we've all made mistakes, and it's the sooner we can get to be vulnerable, the more likely we are to really build deeper bonds and just feel accepted and like, okay, like we're not totally falling behind.
That concludes the interview. For those listening to this, talked about the benefit of pivoting and learning how to navigate through this craziness. If you would like to take advantage of a complimentary pivot session with me, I'll include details about that in this post. Or if you know that coaching is something you could benefit from, want to learn a little bit more, I offer a 2-hour complimentary coaching session, which is a deep dive into your business. So I'll include the information for that as well. And also a link to Garrett's website so that you can take advantage of that. Garrett, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Tim. See ya.
All right. Take care.